Hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? It's great to hang out with you again for another Professor Thoughts podcast episode and live stream. Today, we're going to be diving into progressive slot machines. That's coming up. Hi, my name is John Friedel. Welcome to Professor Slots, a channel that's all about mastering casino slots so you can win your way to success. If you've ever walked into a casino, I just had to I had to turn on my recorder here. Hi, my name is John Friedel. Welcome to Professor Slots, a channel that's all about mastering casino slots so you can win your way to success. If you've ever walked into a casino, looked around, and wondered what's going on with slots and more, I can help. Thanks again for joining us today, whether you are listening on the podcast, watching this episode, this video later, or here with us on the live stream at noon Eastern Time each Saturday. I'm glad you're all here. But first, if you're with us during the live stream, make sure you say hello to everyone in the live chat. Let us know where you are at and where you play slots. I'll check in with the live stream in a little bit. And as always, be sure to ask your slots-related questions. And if you're watching this video, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so we can keep growing our community of slots enthusiasts. Thanks so much. Today's topic is on progressive slot machines. I recently ran a poll on my social media sites and email list asking slot enthusiasts like you, what kinds of slot machines do you play? I listed 5 possible choices, including low limit, non-progressive, progressive, penny, high limit, and class 2 bingo style machines. Participants could pick as many of these as they liked. So if you like penny progressives, then you could pick both penny and progressives. I did this for about a week, and it's relevant to today's show because of a video that I put out on Thursday, the second in my Thursday series. I think I'll always try to have Thursdays be like part of a series, and I've got a bunch of articles that you could read now, but I'm trying to succinctly say them in less than 9 minutes. It can be a challenge, less than 9 minutes, which is kind of the cutoff for a YouTube video that's not a live stream. And there's a lot to say sometimes, and I'm getting better at it. But on Thursday was my second in a series on my winning slot strategies, and that was about progressive slots. So let's some aspects of that. So let's talk. Right. So when I put out this poll, some of it was about progressives, but one of it, and I wanted to kind of go over those results because it sort of indicates why we need to talk about progressives. Not everyone has access to tribal casinos or tribal casinos that have class 2 bingo style slot machines. So that choice came out at around 10%. It was the lowest of any of the choices. But it was actually a lot higher than I thought it would be. I know I have a big group of fans in Texas, or people outside of in Texas, in Oklahoma. Some of them outside of Oklahoma in Texas who gamble in Oklahoma, and that group really enjoys the nearly 50-50 split of Class 2 and Class 3 machines that Oklahoma likes to have, but still 10% out of more than 300 participants in the poll. I thought that was, it's the lowest, but it was huge. But then there's plenty of others who don't have access to tribal casinos and are like, what's a class 2? So that some people didn't, some slots enthusiasts didn't know what I meant. So just to be clear, Class 2 bingo-style machines are competitive-style electronic gaming machines available at many tribal casinos, including those casinos that don't have a negotiated tribal state gaming compact. Their gaming regulations are different because they come from a different source, I guess is the best way to put it, that Class 3 slot machine, it comes from a different source than Class 3 slot machines. I explain this further, but tomorrow I'm just going crazy with the videos now. I'm trying to do like one every couple of days, 4 times a week maybe. Let's see, Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and today's live stream, so 4 a week, and basically every couple of days, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. But now I just need to keep that up for years. It should be fine, but I'm getting better at some of these things, and I'll explain one of them. One of the things I could have done better on Thursdays. Too much information is becoming my issue. Anyway, so I'd explain this further about the difference between Class 2 and Class 3, but I'm publishing a video tomorrow. It's already set up, it's scheduled, uploaded and everything, on why classifications exist, where they come from, and what they mean. Again, a lot of my earlier videos, if it's not a state-by-state one, which I've been doing the longest, every week. Tuesday, I came out with the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have to do the territories as well as the states, and I do them alphabetically. And so when I do these videos, when I get started with these videos, which aren't the state by state, I'm trying to answer easy questions. I mean, we always have people who weren't exposed to Class 2 or didn't know about the state laws being different for every state and what's kind of going on with all of that. So I'm trying to, the early videos are just saying, what are the definitions of terms that you might not have heard of before and don't quite know the meaning of? So a lot of these early stuff is just basics. But as I work through my stockpile of articles on my website, which you could always go there now, I'm creating new articles, recording videos for them. And anyway, this is the whole system that I put in place. One of the bit of feedback I got was get to the point. So I will get to the point, which is take a look later, to the video coming out tomorrow. For you listening on the podcast, yes, you. I don't know why I pointed to somebody on the podcast. It's out already for you. Take a look later when you're not driving or exercising or whatever it is that you're doing. Mowing the lawn, maybe? I can only imagine. So Class 2 bingo style machines came out of my poll at 10%, which is higher than I was expecting. This is why I'm running polls every once in a while to get you to get to know you better. I'll mention now that my latest poll has a yes/no answer. The question I put out was, do you keep gambling records? That poll came back no at just under 60%. 57%, so 43% for a yes, 57% for a no. That was interesting. It's good to know these things. We should do something sometime about slots enthusiasts just leaving money on the table like that. Anyway, back to the first poll on machine type. Just over twice as many participants play high-limit slots as do those who play Class 2 machines. Did you notice that smooth segue from gambling records to high-limit slots? But I skipped over low-limit, non-progressive machines played by 14% of participants in the survey. But as I mentioned last time, the top two types were penny and progressive slot machines. So let's talk about progressive slot machines, many of which are penny machines. On this most recent Thursday, I published a video explaining my winning slot strategy number 2. Perhaps you've seen it. If not, I've put a link to it in the description of this video as well as in the podcast show notes. This most recent video is my winning slot strategy for winning progressive jackpots. That's one strategy that works, although guess what? It takes good gambling records to pull it off. How's that for another smooth segue? Again, as I've mentioned in past shows, I'm not holding these live streams to repeat or spoil what I've explained elsewhere. These live streams are about answering your slots questions, but mostly to go over what wasn't discussed in my videos. Like this winning strategy number 2 is about the basics of how a progressive slot machine is set up and how it operates, followed by how to win and optimize winning progressive jackpots. Looking back, I really should have made 2 videos because of how long that video ended up being, almost 9 minutes. One video on progressive slot machines and another on how to win progressive jackpots would have been better, I realize now. Live and learn, as always. I'm going to make sure everything looks copacetic in the live chat. It does. Thank you, Paula, for managing things. I'll check in a little bit. Based on my poll with over 300 participants, 84 of those responding answered progressive slot machines, and 84 of those responding answered penny slot machines, evenly divided, around 28%. With my winning strategy number 2 now published for your enjoyment, I thought today would be a good time to talk about progressive slot machines, about what I didn't discuss in my too long video about winning the jackpots. Yesterday, I was walking through Miami Valley Gaming, a local pari-mutuel wagering racetrack with slot machines having some of the best return statistics in Ohio. And I'm sure you are aware progressive slot machines don't have their own areas. Most casinos used to set up with clearly defined areas having their own slot machine denominations. The quarter machines were over in its own area, and dollar machines were probably next to it. Machines where you make bets on $5 were in the where you make bets worth $5 were in the high limit room, and you might even be able to find nickel and dime denomination slot machines in their own areas out on the casino floor. Nowadays, it just doesn't seem to be clearly designated areas, not as clearly defined as I seem to remember, where they'd have like a big sign with the slot machine denomination, and you kind of knew that area is for that. You still see a little bit of that, but it just doesn't seem quite as delineated. But that's certainly fine, because change is the only constant, right? Am I the only person that thinks that way? I doubt it. But progressive slot machines have never had their own area. A progressive slot machine can be of any denomination. And it was maybe, 5 or 7 years ago that slot machines with major and minor jackpots came out. Those were all, at least that's when they came through the casinos that were near me at the time. Those are all progressive style slot machines too. Progressives aren't just slot machines. Make a note here. Progressives aren't just slot machines with an LED sign on the top of the machine with a large, ever-changing jackpot. My point is that if you want to play a progressive slot machine, you can find them in all areas of a casino. And that presents a bit of a problem if you want to use my winning strategy number 2 to win progressive jackpots. What machines are part of which progressive jackpot, right? That becomes the issue. Please take a look at the video and you'll see what I mean by that. But I asked this question or maybe you read my article previously, but I asked that question of a floor manager at Miami Valley. How big are progressive slot machine networks? How many slot machines are in a network? Again, this isn't something I discussed in my already too long video on progressive jackpots. At a high level, it's the same network if the progressive jackpot is the same amount on all of them, at least within a few pennies, as keeping all these progressive jackpot signs perfectly synced can be technically challenging. And those with the same rolling progressive jackpot always have the same game theme and slot machine denomination. But don't reverse this. First, they have the same jackpot or very close to it. Then they have the same game, because reversing it doesn't work, because the same game can be on multiple networks with big differences in progressive jackpots. Make sense? Good. Let's check in with the live stream to briefly say hello. Oh my, look at all those comments. There's lots of hellos. There's, okay, I'm sorry, someone said audio is out, no sound, and now I will have to check the original. But now you can hear fine. Whew, that's a bit of a shock. Hi, Maggie. Now I'm suddenly sweating. Okay. Gee, that would have been a 15-minute error. I have nightmares about this. Jeffrey is from Maine is here. You don't need to hear about my nightmares. Sherry, let's see. She has a quick question. Sherry says, why are players doing max bet for low denomination? As opposed to what? Sometimes the machine will play a different game and make more accessibility to bonuses and other options. If you play max bet, it's some with physical reels, the older style. It doesn't matter how much. The game is the same no matter how many bets you make. But some of the newer stuff, different options are available. The more bets you make, and the max bet on a low denomination. I was going to talk about penny slot machines today, but my goodness, all of those should be in the high limit room. You're making $6, $8, $9 bets on a penny machine because you're betting 880 credits. My goodness, is that not a high limit machine? So I just find some of that a little bit tricky by the casino, and so lots of hellos. Yep. Comments, answers. No notifications again. Sorry that you're a few minutes late there. Greener pastures. Steve, I think. Yeah. Some people are complaining about YouTube not giving a notification that the live stream is coming up. YouTube isn't perfect. Okay, let's see. Catherine, hello. Don't mean to go on too long here. Paula, thanks you for giving all the good advice. Welcome, Mitchell. You're from Virginia. Play a Hollywood casino in West Virginia and MGM Resorts. And Horseshoe in Baltimore. Loves my content. Keep it coming. Welcome. Hey, Hawaii's here. I don't know if it's Ni or Nai. Naigo. Good morning. Aloha. And got your Kona coffee and notepad. Awesome. Right. So Brian is telling us about some of his wins but left ahead. Good. Mr. Profit 74 is on a bad losing streak. Well, it's hard times. I mean, the pandemic. I was mentioning earlier in the before we got started with recording that I got something to share in a little bit that may help a little bit, depending on what you play. We'll get to it. Yep, and Brian's talking about gambling notes. I'm even taking note of the moon phase. Richard and Lisa in Cherokee, North Carolina, Harris, staying the weekend. Yep. Brian broke even on Friday. Okay. That was fantastic. Let's get with the show so I can get back to the show so I can give you more information that may help with some of what you're talking about. Okay. The floor manager at Miami Valley also mentioned a couple of other things. First, I asked how to figure out which slot machines went with which networks. I asked this because I wondered if I had to search the whole casino for progressive slot machines with the same progressive jackpot. Could there be one over in one corner of the casino with its networked colleague over in the far other corner of the casino? He said no. He said, besides having the same progressive jackpot amount, he said, slot machines on in-casino networks, its size of network, there's several different sizes, including standalone and multi-state, multi-casino operators, but the in-casino network type are close together, either in the same row a straight line of slot machines, maybe front and back of that row, potentially, or a circular carousel. Apparently, this feature is part of setting up a network of progressive slot machines like this floor manager had done. He was in the high limit room, and we were talking there about stuff, so he seemed to be very involved in setting things up. He might have even been the slots manager. Seemed to be, I think he said that, but very knowledgeable. Either it's just easier to set up a network where the machines are close together, or maybe it's just less expensive for a couple of reasons. The labor cost, the cost of all that cabling, the possibility of errors, whatever. This nearness is worth mentioning because it helps us. If we want to win progressive jackpots, this feature is convenient. He also mentioned a trend, by the way. Again, I did not mention this in the video. Strictly speaking, I talked about megabucks, but not necessarily. I think the part that I wanted to say about megabucks was edited out to make it as short as possible. But in casino progressive slot machine networks are on the rise. These owned by the casino, only in that casino. The number of those networks, which could be, one row might be 5, although during the pandemic that may be closed, which touches on something I want to mention very shortly. But these in-casino progressive slot machine networks are on the rise. He didn't mention standalone progressives are too, but I assume so, given his reason for all of this. He said the wide area progressive networks with life-changing jackpots are going away. Why? Too much legal liability for casinos. Why? Too many co-owners of these systems, including every casino with one on the same network, as well as the slot machine manufacturer. If one owner has a legal objection, nobody gets paid. If one of all these co-owners, and it could be a handful of them, if one of them has an objection, a legal objection, nobody gets paid, including the jackpot winner. Until that legal dispute is resolved. And if it's not resolved in less than an hour, which is impossible, then it's bad press for the casino where the win occurred. Really bad press. Since it's hardly bad press at all for any of the co-owners elsewhere, and someone winning the jackpot means each one, if someone wins the jackpot, means these other owners have to pay their share. But there's no downside if they object, so why wouldn't they object legally? I don't mean to be cynical. I'm not really cynical. But and this doesn't happen with every big jackpot, progressive jackpot, but it happens enough, given how expensive lawyers can be, for these wide area progressives just to become less and less. Having multi-million-dollar progressive jackpots has become not worth it. That's why Megabucks was removed from all Las Vegas casinos in the last year, and that's why in-casino progressive networks are on the rise at your local casino. Fewer co-owners is better for the casino. One thing I skipped over, I'm going to jump back into the live stream, try to keep it quick before I get into this next section. We were talking about not being notified, which I don't know what that's about. Losing Street, Maggie. Hi, Maggie. Has anyone been to any of the Atlantic City casinos? I haven't been to any casinos since before they shut down. The New Jersey site, my New Jersey Facebook group, is a small group of quiet people, but there is one or two that do speak up, and we should know pretty soon kind of what's going on there, the boots on the ground approach. The shortcut is professorslots.com. I can't type it into the live stream because it doesn't quite work. professorslots.com/FBNJ. That's the shortcut. It'll take you directly to Facebook. And we can see what they have to say there. Yeah, I can see Maggie's point about not too keen on having to wear a mask and get your temperature taken every time you enter a casino when they're all like grouped together, right? I guess I don't know how they've arranged it. That's a very good question, and that's something you'd really find online. Is, what if you were downtown Las Vegas, and you're just like, but it's like 10 feet away, or on the strip, out one into the next. Nope, take your temperature. When I was at when I had a day job not too long ago, we used to get like a card. We'd go to the central location, get a card, and then we could enter all the sites if we had that day's card. But that could be a little bit too much paper lying around, and I can see larger sites like Las Vegas Strip where that might not be a good idea, or work very efficiently. Okay, a little bit of feedback on YouTube responses. Definitely people coming together and agreeing. Hi, Steve. Steve is in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Yep. So I want to share something in a few minutes that may offer some insight. It's about progressive slot machines. In my research for my article and some questions I was getting from somebody, I noticed something that's maybe 5 minutes away. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yep. Leslie's saying she's hearing most casinos are tight, not giving any big jackpots, just smaller ones. Yep. That is what I'm hearing all across the country. It's great to get feedback from, every state, our little Facebook groups, some not so little, talking about what they're seeing and showing their pictures. And yeah, it's been great to get that set up before the pandemic, to, start building those groups in order to be able to get this sort of information. Who knew, right? Who knew? Hey, Lois and Dave, good to see you, family, friends. They're up in Ontario, Canada, where I believe the casinos are not open. Sorry, there's some inside jokes here that are pretty funny, I thought. Cheeseheads and someone actually choosing to live in Flint, Michigan. My excuse, I was born there. Come on. So what are the co-owner objections related to progressives? If there's any sort of procedural difficulty, first off, the slot machine, it's has administrative costs and co-owners. That's because it's, the wide area needs to be in a wide area. Other casino operators, other states, you need some sort of, neutral body to sort of run what's going on in one casino versus another. Otherwise, it gets very competitive, and it's good to have a neutral party. And who better than the slot machine owner? And they offer that service to help facilitate having wide area progressives like Megabucks. And so you get each casino involved in a wide area network, and you get the owner, the original manufacturer, involved as a service for a fee. And then, if you had like a $39 million progressive jackpot in one casino and someone actually won, that their month's profit is just going to be like millions of dollars in the negative, or at least just take a $39 million hit. So if you distribute that cost across many casinos and, the slot machine manufacturer, then you could sort of ride that wave. And it's just who has, that much cash on hand, right, to just write a check. So it's multiple checks have to come in, and that gets into the co-owner stuff. It's just how wide areas have to work. And with all of the, where do the objections come from? Would be any sort of procedural, hey, this form wasn't filled out correctly. Hey, this, hey, that. It's worth kind of looking at this. And any one of those individuals could object, or entities, I should say. Any one of those entities could object, which would mean the whole thing's off until that's resolved. And you can you even reach everybody at, 2 o'clock in the morning? So even, it could take 8 hours to get your progressive jackpot, and if you got a flight out of Las Vegas, it's all kinds of difficulties for everybody. And it used to be just amazing to see the news. We've talked about it here. We've talked about it on the groups to see, hey, someone won 39 million, or 128,000, or we all just sort of like comment about that. Ooh, wouldn't that be great? Oh, that's so hard to happen. It's really luck based. All these different comments. It's just exciting. And the casino that where that happened, even with co-owners, gets a big boost. But everybody else that's in the network, they aren't aware of that. Oh, that happened somewhere else in the network. And there's a little technical thing, which is, what if one person wins it in one casino and 5 seconds later someone wins it at another casino? And that's one of the things I think I mentioned, right? That sometimes the progressive jackpot isn't synced exactly. If you look at a machine in a in-casino network, progressive slot machine, maybe 5 or 6 of them all in a row, and then progressive jackpot's a little bit off because a few pennies. But it's obviously the same network, and that's just because it's out of sync. Now, if you're in the next state over because it's a wide area progressive, then, well, you get the idea. Right, so let's see. Brian says all the wins I've been getting have been $1.25, $1.50 bets. Anything more or less, and I got nothing, and have been getting good hits on Lightning Link within 3 spins. And Catherine says, that was Brian, and Catherine says, my Kitchener friend says no casinos open there. Good conversations between everybody. That's nice to see. Shannon is here. Hello, Shannon. She's in New York. Yep. And Lois and Dave confirm no casinos yet in Ontario are open. Let's see. Leslie says, Brian noticed as well, you have lower bet from... Yeah, so what's going on here? Right. So what's going on, what's being talked about here is... we all know about random number generators. We might know about central servers, or whether the random number generators on the individual standalone slot machine, or if it's networked, or all that. But there is a random number generator. That's known. One of the things by most people. It's a slot machine. But what wasn't fully expressed anywhere that I saw was that it actually does 2 things. It's run twice. I mean, there's some other things that it might do, but the primary thing we're looking for is winning money, and the slot machine the random number generator for winning a bet is run twice. Once for whether or not you get a win, whether or not you win anything, and it's run immediately after that, back to back, and the second selection is how much. So if you win, first time, second step, how much you won. And that's independently controlled. There wasn't always, but, well, it sort of was. There was like 6 or 9 different settings you could choose on the list that the manufacturer gave you to set on a slot machine. There was an old YouTube video, which has since disappeared, that it opened one up and showed all that. And I went to my neighbor who has a slot machine that's maybe 10 years old, and it's all programmable within a certain amount. And if you do that sort of thing, if you know about that sort of thing, then you can sort of look at these settings, and now it's much more finely divided. You can lower how much you win, but increase how often you win. And that's kind of what we're seeing at best for many of the casinos. Some places just turn them both down because they want to make some of their money back. And so this gets right into what I wanted to talk about next. Well, let me finish my little section here. So one thing I skipped over is progressive jackpots on machines which are not technically slot machines. These electronic gaming machines, as they are called, are, for instance, Class 2 bingo-style gaming machines. Those can have progressive jackpots too, right? Also, there are currently far less common pari-mutuel wagering electronic gaming machines found in, say, Kentucky. So-called historic horse racing, HHR machines. In mid-February this year, I was at Red Mile and Derby City checking them out and saw more than a few had progressive jackpots. But I also have an email. This is actually from December 3rd, 2018, because for a long time I just had the website, and then I added a podcast, and then I added YouTube, and I've just been, learn each one and grow. And I'm going to try something new here, and we shall see how well this works out. Hang on a second. But Paul has said we exchanged emails back in December 2018, and he had something which I'd like to share with you about video poker machines with progressive jackpots. Here it is, quote, "I was able to find a few moments to run through your article. Thanks for answering my questions so completely. I did want to point out that progressive VP, video poker, machines do exist, usually as local jackpots on a bank of machines that may include between 6 to 12 machines. Usually the jackpot is set to be won by the player that gets the highest hand, royal flushes in parentheses, first, who gets the highest hand, royal flush, first. And the pay table for other hands is lowered to fund the jackpot. A common winning strategy for VP is to only play a progressive when it rises to a certain level, at which point theoretical return is greater than 100%, if, of course, you are the first to get the royal flush. I've been to a casino in New Jersey where local players filled an entire bank of machines and waited to take turns when a VP jackpot had risen to a high level, and then they all disappeared as soon as it was won. Since the level of these local VP jackpots isn't advertised anywhere, it requires a lot of scouting and luck to find such an opportunity." End quote. So I thought you might appreciate that description from 2 years ago. As I have mentioned, some of the winning strategies that I talk about, I didn't invent. I discovered, refined, optimized, ran through a sieve to make, point out all the logic bits and all the myth bits and teach it. My contribution. Some of them I saw, and I haven't seen anybody else talk about them, but I made a significant amount of money doing them. So some I found, some I uncovered, some I refined, I'm not at all surprised. I'm not claiming to be the first person that figured some of this out, but I might be the first person who started a website, YouTube, podcast, book to put it all together for you. And I have made my own contributions to this field, which is not too surprising. That's how things work, right? One of the things I wanted to point out, one of the things I said in the video, let's see if I can do this, okay. And I'm going to try something new here, which is when I have an article on progressive jackpot winning strategy, and one of the things that's out of date about it, one of the things that I progressively sort of shifted back and forth on for the last couple of years was whether or not I like progressive slot machines, and what are my feelings about why I don't like progressive slot machines or why I do like them. It's sort of kind of been like a love-hate, back and forth sort of tug of war in my mind. And one of the things, at first I was just like, wow, look at the low odds and megabucks. Don't ever play those. Okay, done with progressives. And I moved on. But then I updated that section in my book and other things because as I learned more, and they have kind of developed over the last few years. As I learned more, I saw some advantages and I wanted to, put them in. What about low level in casino, standalone progressive networks, not just the, wide area stuff. And one of the things I noticed was, there's 5 or 6 states that have return statistics that show slot machine denomination. And one of those, and I meant to look up Nevada because I know it has megabucks, but I don't remember if it does like $5 denomination, return statistic, and then $5 denomination progressive return statistics. So they separate those. I think Nevada might do that too, but Mississippi does. Mississippi is great this way. They don't do casino by casino. They do 4 different regions in the state, and whatever casinos are in that state are all bundled together. But they do this, and this is the experimental part, which is I'm going to see if I can put this in front of the camera so you can see it. And it takes about 30 seconds for me to see it on the screen myself. And what I'm trying to show you is the Mississippi return statistics for, and here I come holding this up, and it's too low. So I will raise it a little bit. In 30 seconds, you'll be able to see it. But look at the progressive return statistics versus the non-progressive return statistics. When I look at, the nickel machines, nickel denomination in the northern region of the Mississippi, state of Mississippi, return statistics for June 2020, the latest available, it is 4.36%. This is the win percentage for the casino. So the smaller the number, the closer it is to 100%. So that would be 95.64% with that 4.36. But look at the nickel progressive. That's 10% less. That's not 95. That's 85. Look at the difference between quarter and quarter progressive. It's 2.5 points. 2.5 points in return statistics. That's huge. So I'm going to remove this. I'll put the link to this report. And you may have to zoom in and put it on widescreen or something to be able to see it, but that's enough of that. And I'll need to find a better way to do it. I can't just experiment. I have to try this stuff live. Anyway, when you look at the 50 cent, on the 50 cent, you actually have almost a point better for the progressive. And that's what I originally saw. What I originally saw 2 years ago when I updated my progressive description and articles and book on that section, I went through the Mississippi report, and I saw that progressives were always better than the non-progressives for the same denomination. So I made a note of it. But I saw something, my corner of my eye, I saw Brian talking about wearing a gorilla mask to a casino. I really got to keep an eye on those folks in the life kit. But I think I signed up for a trip to England last time unaware. But a couple of years ago when I looked at the Mississippi return statistics, it was better on the progressives than it was for the non-progressives for the same denomination across the board. And I was like, hey, that may not just be true for Mississippi. There may be a thing going on for the nation, right? And right now we got a thing going on for the nation because right now it is wildly better odds on the non-progressives for the same denomination often on most of these. The 5-point difference on the $5 machines, it's worse on the progressives on the $5 denomination. 4%, almost exactly 4% for the dollar progressives. Let's see, and pennies, it's 4.5%. 4.5%. I'd go to a place without a good buffet for 4.5% return statistics improvement. My goodness. So I think this is a pandemic response. I think this applies across the country. I think that if you want to improve your gambling return at the casinos right now, I think as of June, in Mississippi, I suspect that a non-progressive is far better odds, could be as much as 10% better odds. 10%, it's just crazy amount. Better to do the non-progressive version. So if I have a recommendation right now, if you're having some tough times, I would try the non-progressive versions of the denominations you're betting. That's my, insight today. as part of my research for doing that video and preparing for today's live stream. There's assumptions that I'm making about it's not just Mississippi, but to have all but one of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different denominations, and 5 of them being significantly worse when it is progressive, and it basically the same-ish for the one of them, this is a hint. This is a big-time hint. So I would suggest looking into not playing the non-progressives versions of whatever it is you're playing if you're playing progressives right now. That's my suggestion. It's funny what catches my eye. Something about Vegas, England. We're good either way. So checking back in to our lively group of, and you can only be part of the live chat if you're here during the live stream, because I turn that off. Sometimes there's an option to leave it running. Leave it available if you're going to watch this video later. I turn that off. I want people here to have some privacy. Seems to be more comfortable to be able to say what you want now, and it's gone. So I turn these off later. So if you're on the live stream and you want to be part of the conversation, this lovely conversation, be ready to have a lively conversation. I'm told this doesn't happen a lot of other live streams, to be so much engaged with the audience, but that's great. We're slots players, and we do that, right? We crowd into a place, even during a pandemic. It's what we do. Talk about knowing your audience. So let's see. Paula says, right, so we're still talking about moving or having moved or, right, so I think I'm caught up. Let's see, Maggie says, I can't even imagine walking around a casino now with a mask on. It's downright wrong. Can't tell if anybody is smiling or being friendly. Yeah, I've noticed people are, my local store, and I don't see a lot of smiling people in the casino when they're not wearing masks, so I'm not sure what the problem is there. Maybe it's my casino. Hollywood, Dayton, it's a little less smiling, and Miami Valley Gaming has better returns, so there's a little more smiling. But I see people making an effort, an emphasis on crinkling their eyes at the corners, which are visible. I don't know that they're smiling, but they are crinkling their eyes. That's how, I guess we're changing how we're smiling. Okay, so, Richard is pointing out again that this is placing those dollar transfers into the hands of players more with smaller bets. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, if more money is being handled with smaller bets, but I think with vouchers, it doesn't really matter if you have a lot on a voucher or a little on a voucher. It's still one voucher as long as it's below, $3,000 or whatever the limit is for your state. Chuck says he struggles with having a resting angry face. I should give you my resting face and you can tell me, but I'm afraid all of you will be like runaway scared. So I try to always have a smile, because if you may have caught me thinking occasionally and been scared. Thank you for sticking around. Yeah, it's so much harder to connect with people wearing masks. People cannot tell that you're friendly. It's a tool, right? It's slots enthusiasts are social people. We're not quite the same as table game players, but we do have our, where you're hiding, your poker face is trying to hide tells. That's why you wear reflective glasses, or craps table where everybody wins and loses together, or blackjack where people are somehow upset at what your decision was when it doesn't really matter, but they're still upset with you. So you get these, different currents. But slots enthusiasts aren't gambling against one another in any way. We're just in it together. And, outside of some things like winning a big jackpot, or one of the things I was talking about with somebody was winning the big spin on a Wheel of Fortune, and don't like to be talked to when I'm playing, or do like to be talked to when I play it. And I don't mind being talked to when I'm playing, but I do mind somebody having an opinion about whether my spinning wheel on the spin that I won will land on something, and they'll yell in my ear, "Big money!" And I'm just like, oh, now I won't win. It's not logical, but it is something where I'm just like, oh no, he had to say that now it won't happen. And I know it's not logic, and I shouldn't even say it as Professor Slots, but my personal opinion is don't let's just wait and see. Okay, when I won the car, they ticked down on the big spinning wheel with the whisker and the post, and it kind of dropped into the slot, and then it started riding up on the post, and if it had dropped out of that slot, it would not win the car. And it's slowing down and it's riding up, and the announcer with the microphone in her hand, she looks at me and goes, "Aw," and I'm just like, it ain't over until it's over. I mean, I'm just like, eyes on the prize. and it stopped with about a whisker about this long, and had half an inch or something left on the end when it finally came to a stop, and the pressure on the post by the whisker sort of revolved backwards, and boom. So, it ain't over till it's over. And I just don't like people just telling me what's going to happen when we're still waiting to see, I guess. Right. So, checking through, making sure I'm catching all the questions. Gets a little harder when Chuck says, with his resting angry face, of coming up with a name tag that says I'm friendly. That could work. Maggie, and then you got the Masks casino workers coming up to you and saying that the riot act if you try to breathe. Okay. Michael says he likes the name tag idea. Yeah. Name tags can be great. I had to read all these, which is great. All right. Right. So, as Jan has pointed out, please like this video. It helps to reach out and use the YouTube algorithm to pull in more people, and share these experiences. People are asking about what's it like in New Jersey. Well, let's get people in from New Jersey. So like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I think you must have already done that if you're on the podcast in order to get the next episode. But if you haven't, subscribe on whatever YouTube source that you're taking a look at. Yeah. So there's trips and other things talking about. Yeah, hey, Larry's on. Larry, did you catch the last show? Because I just wanted you to know that we all sort of invited ourselves to the UK. All right, looks like they're explaining to one another. That's great. Hopefully I haven't missed. Any questions. That was my real purpose going through this. I enjoy these conversations. It's like it used to be part of an exercise program, and sometimes I would teach, and I found out that I don't get a good exercise, I don't get a good workout when I'm teaching, but I do learn other things which are important. So I'm missing some of the chat. I'd love to be part of the chat. You might have noticed that more than I am. Can I be a participant in my own show? Would that be too weird? In any case, thank you. That was excellent conversation. What else did I want to say about progressives? One of the things, I think I kind of covered most things. If you want to use the technique that I talk about, in the video that came out on Thursday, then, and by the way, Thursday this next week will be earning complimentary gifts, winning strategy number 3. We'll talk about some things there, but talk about how to use that strategy, because a lot of people, have the gambling goal of earning complimentary gifts. But on winning strategy 2, implementing the suggestion I have on how to win, and people have fed back to me, that's exactly what I've been doing for years, but now the hard part is the record keeping, but it's not hard to do one network. And maybe that's what you should do. When I think about, difficulties of implementing something, why don't you prove it to yourself? Why don't you, prove the technique out? The reason why I didn't really talk about this in the video was because it's, it does work, and I want you to be successful at it. But if you have doubts and you want to try it, take 6 months and figure out what the maximum jackpot is on a progressive, the one that can't go over amount. The million, the wide area don't have those, but all the others do. And if you can figure out what it is, then when it gets close to that amount, if the jackpot that was randomly chosen wasn't less than that, if it actually gets close, then you've avoided all the money spent trying to get it to that point, and you're just going to jump in there at the end, and play it a short while where it has to win to somebody, and you're trying to get that person to be you. That's the winning advantage. And how to do all that is in the video. But, doing that on every network in the machine and in the casino is a lot of writing. It doesn't take any more time. It takes 6 months or however long it takes to sort of nail down what that maximum is. But maybe just to prove it to yourself, do it for one, because then you got one. And then once you know that maximum amount, you're always checking it, right? You're going back to it every time you're in the casino, and you're going, nope, not today. Nope, not today. Oh, look how close it is. Now's the day. And it would be great if you had that on 60 networks or 15 networks or 5 networks. But if you want to prove it to yourself, it's no effort at all, really, to do it on one, on your favorite. Do it. It's just time and patience and remembering where you put that piece of paper. Or just remember, the technique is, however you record it. It's easier to do it for one network than it is to do it for 5, than it is to do it for 10, versus doing it for all of them. Try it. It's not difficult. It just takes time. And remembering where you put that slip of paper that has that number on it for that system. Otherwise, if you have more than one system, then you have to be like, well, now I have to remember which one's which. And that's where the record keeping comes in. And for everybody, thank you for thanking Paula. Paula is taking some of the burden off me so I can talk more about our topic today. And she is great, handling this stuff great. So the YouTube channel that I managed to secure is the one that Paula has put up there. I had to jump through some hoops, some of them a little bit flaming, but I earned the branded site, youtube.com. And the long one, there's 2 of them actually. The one that Paula put up here is www.youtube.com/C/Professor Slots, rather than just this long number, a random number. But it also works to just use youtube.com/Professor Slots. So if you go there, that's what YouTube has set up for me after I jump through my flaming hoops. Richard has a question about good questions for our local casino personnel. I would say no. And the reason why I would say that is how would they know? People who work for the casino can't gamble. Now, I've heard if you work in the kitchen, you're allowed on the casino floor and can gamble. So it depends on what your job is. But the people who would know would have to be those people who play. And the people who play aren't the people that you're going to be running into. So, Richard, it's a fine idea, but they're not experienced. Yeah. But that's why I set up the local groups, local Facebook groups, to help, find people in the local area who don't work for this casino but go to the casino. Those are the knowledgeable ones. Those have always been the knowledgeable ones. That's why I suggest talking to slots players, and you guys are certainly talking to each other, who sit down next to you. What do you think? I did that with so many people, and it was interesting to see the ones, the non-smiling ones who would look at me and they'd just be like, they listened, they practically took notes about how to win, but did they share anything? No. At least you guys share, so I get an idea of how many people believe in stuff that's kind of mythical, and other people are like, yeah, no, I've been winning for years that way, and they might be looking for, the casino gets bought, and they might be looking for somebody else, how to figure out how to win again. We've had RS from last time, right, who knows how to win at his casino, but if it's bought, and management changes how they approach things, he's got to start over again. And, my job, what I've done, I could have stopped. I could have just sat and worn out a chair, but I decided that, I wanted to go to casino to casino to casino and start explaining to you guys what other casinos do. Otherwise, I'd just have the one way of winning that I win at. And why do I want to learn something else when I could be spending my time winning money? I've gone over my decision-making on starting to do all this. Thank you again for all your time. And for an hour of your time, I do appreciate it. Remember to subscribe, remember to like, and please have fun, be safe, make good choices. I'll talk to you later.